We're here with the man, the myth, the legend, creator of Vita Carnis, Darian. How are you doing, Darian?
I'm doing pretty good. Hello.
I want to briefly, recount how I felt when I first found your series. I started the documentary, right? I don't even remember how I found it. I think I literally went into Google or on YouTube or whatever and was like, underrated analog horror, because I wanted to find something new. And then I found it. I went to the documentary, and I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. And then everything is like, oh, this the art is really good too. Wow, this is really something. And then we get to the mimic portion, and I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. And then the footage portion starts, and I'm like, oh, I was unfamiliar with your game. I apologize. And I was like hiding behind my hands, man. I couldn't handle it the first time.
That's great.
That first time was fucked up, man. And I'm sure everyone feels that way. You got something different. For the first...
Thank you. Yeah.
No, dude, it's crazy. It's so good. I found it, and it shot up to my favorite like instantly as soon as I was done. And I thought I was gonna be stuck making Five Nights at Freddy's content until I died, and it made me kind of sad. And then I made the Vita Carnis video, and at first it actually did really poorly, and I was like, oh, it's Jover. I was like, this is it, man. And then one day, it just started doing well, out of nowhere. I don't know why.
That's the thing I've noticed with a bunch of other people's as well. It starts off really low, but it just keeps slowly growing for some reason, and I don't know why.
I spent a really long time trying to come up with a timeline in my head that made sense. And I think for the time, with the information that I was given, I think I did a pretty good job. Now I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know what the hell's going on anymore. But that's okay. That's fine. And I was hoping, of course, to give you some traction as well, because you're doing something incredible over here, of course. And now we've got game theory. We've gotten to the game theory status. We've gotten to the Matt Pat coverage. Which
that's crazy.
I'm sure that was crazy. I'm gonna start with the actual list of questions that I've written down. But I wanted to know what got you into doing illustration and drawing.
It's just kind of always been a thing. Ever since I was young. Yeah. When I was young, I was always drawing and messing around with pencil crayons in school and all that. Mm-hmm. And then in high school, I started drawing more, quote, professionally.
Quote, professionally, yeah. I
started focusing on it. I'm like, okay, I want to make this a career. And then started growing from there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it feels very Trevor Henderson-esque.
Yeah, he was one of my biggest inspirations when I first started.
It's really, and I like his work a lot too. It's just, you look at the art that he does, and you place yourself in the situation where you're just looking at this eldritch horror in a dark setting, and you're like, oh, this is very uncomfortable. It's not even scary. It's just uncomfortable. You know?
It works so well because there's just so casual photos. This is a photo you would take or accidentally take with your phone, but you accidentally capture something that's not supposed to be there.
Well, now we're gonna get to the big guns. I want to know, how did the idea of Vita Carnis come to you? What were the inspirations? And what is your favorite internet horror, analog horror? I'm sure these are all kind of the same answer, which is why I asked them together.
Okay, so the story itself was a thing that I thought up a couple of years ago.
Okay.
I wanted to make a story about a specific thing, and was slowly just non-serious, just casual, making creatures and doing that. And then one day I was introduced to the term unfiction and analog horror. I was just scrolling through Instagram, and the person I followed posted some fan art of, you guessed it, the Mandela catalog.
Oh, there it is.
That was my first proper introduction to analog horror. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. I should go check it out. And then I watched it. I'm like, oh, this is what it is. Because it turns out I was introduced to analog horror before, but I didn't know what it was. Stuff like Local 58.
Yeah, that's how I...
And another one called Daisy Brown.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
Daisy Brown is also one of the biggest inspirations for practical effects that I use.
Ooh, yeah.
So, once I discovered analog horror, I thought, hey, maybe I can do this. And what would be a good story? Oh, this one would fit really well.
The one that you kind of were already thinking of. It's like, oh, what if I just tell it in this popular medium that I just found out was really cool?
Yeah, in this little format. I'll post it to YouTube because why not? It'll be fun. And then, like, a couple months later, it blew up, and I'm like, oh! This was just for fun. But now it's serious.
Yeah, I figured... I feel like a lot of projects, like passion projects, will kind of go like that, and there's definitely... It obviously depends on mindset and person to person, but there's obviously, like, an added pressure once you are not just kind of throwing your thoughts and your work into the void, where you're just like, oh, I'm just putting this here, you guys can watch it if you want. Now you know there's a lot of people waiting for what you're gonna post, and that's a whole different mental kind of thing to get over when you're actually making the series.
Yeah, it's like one of the first, like when it first started blowing up in December, January, I'm like, oh boy, this is great. And then people started noticing like some of the like lesser quality details, like, hey, this is spelt wrong, or oh, this isn't done right. I'm like, oh no, it's this part that everyone talks about when they blow up. My goodness, this is exactly what everyone else was feeling.
Yeah, it's I mean, I kind of get it with even like my own YouTube comments. There's a very like most people are gonna be overwhelmingly positive and receptive to what you're doing, and there's a very loud, overcritical minority that that you kind of have to get over, you know? Like, there's people that there's always gonna be someone that just doesn't vibe with your shit. There's gonna be people that don't vibe with what you're doing. And,
yeah, you can't make everyone happy.
Yeah, and that's fine. And it's just, as long as you realize that that's fine, then you should be good. But
yeah, I've learned a way to weaponize it. I now use it as a critique to build forward.
That's good. That's good. Kind of a little minor question that was supposed to piggyback off of this. I wanted to know how long you actually worked on Vita Carnis before uploading the first video. Like, how much of the story did you plan before even going in, and how long did it take for that first video to go up?
For planning, not much time. I just wanted to write something quick, and then I'll basically just work along the way. But for the actual video itself, I'd say it took around a month, maybe 2. Like, it was nothing serious, just working on it every now and then. I'm like, okay, video will come out, I guess, this date.
Yeah, whenever I'm ready. Alright, so next question. What were your inspirations for the creature design? Because you've got some pretty unique designs of all of the Vita Carnis. They look really cool. I want to know where that came from.
So the creatures themselves were inspired by real-life creatures.
Okay.
Because I wanted to create, like, a speculative biology sort of thing. Like, oh, what would happen if these creatures existed, and how would they interact? So, like, the crawl is inspired by fungus, the trimmings are inspired by raccoons or other, like, random city-dwelling creatures. And meat snakes were inspired by normal snakes, but also another type of, like, it was like a bug that, like, takes the carcasses of, like, other bugs and puts it on themselves to camouflage. The mimic was inspired by a D&D mimic, because I wanted, of course, it's analog horror. You gotta do the creepy humanoid. Ooh.
Yeah, of course.
I wanted to put a different little spin on it rather than like, oh, it copies you and takes your place. No, it's a creature that adapts and tries to camouflage. Yeah, so the harvester was inspired by the man-o-war, like jellyfish and such, because the idea of like swimming in the ocean and then suddenly getting touched by something you kind of invisible, and then you just sit there and die.
And the monoliths are very interesting.
They were inspired by redwood trees. Because, like, if you see the photos of, like, here's are some of the oldest redwood trees in the world, and they're just these massive trunks. Like, it takes several people just to stand around it and, like, see the full size of it. I'm like, what if that was a creature?
Yeah, what if that was just a living thing?
Just standing in the middle of nowhere, not doing anything, but it's there.
Just kind of chilling. Which one's your favorite?
Which one's my favorite? I gotta go with the little boys, the trimmings,
the little boys,
dudes,
of course.
The dudes.
How did you feel? You kind of talked about this, but how do you feel about the popularity that your series has garnered? Like, I'm assuming you didn't expect this to happen at all.
Kind of, not really. It was more just a big hope. I'm like, oh boy, I want to have a big series that comes up one day. But I expected it one day, not like it's next week.
Yeah.
It was super positive though. I really liked that it popped off so quick. The only complaint I had is I would have spent more time on the planning and quality of the work if that was the case. I thought I had time to grow.
You couldn't have known. It's okay. Like, it's not your fault.
Well, it's going good now. That's all that matters.
Oh yeah, I mean, with the freaking season finale being like all Blender, and I started watching. I was like, are you serious? It's so cool. This is kind of more of a self-indulgent question, because I know that there is a little bit of merch already. But are we going to get any more merch in the future, such as more t-shirts or a trimming plush? That's the big question.
As the time of I'm working on this, like, as I finish the series, I am currently working on shirts and putting up artwork on my print store and such.
Awesome.
So that should be coming out in a day or two. As
really?
the time of we are like talking about this right now. It should be out now by the time this video comes out. Go buy my merch.
That's awesome.
Do it.
Yeah.
Buy my merch.
Literally, I'll literally plug the link tree. I'm not even capping. I'll plug the link tree.
There it is. Look at it. It's so good.
Because I was gonna say, when I saw the Singularity illustration, the one that you most recently posted, I'm like, that would look hard as fuck on a t-shirt. I would wear that shit.
Yeah, so for all the creatures that I've like drawn and posted on the community page on YouTube, those will all be put on a shirt and probably turned into stickers.
A little bit of a deeper question. So what is your favorite part of the creative process for Vita Carnis?
For the creating part, it's the script writing. I like how everything, like, you get to put everything together. Like, oh, this part means it, like, it works well with this. And oh, this part mixed with this really well, and it meant this all along.
Yeah, because you have all the ideas floating around in your head, but it becomes tangible once you write the script for the episode. That's when you really, like, you're like, oh, this is real.
It works, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But my truly favorite part is seeing how everyone else reacts to it, because, like, I posted a thing, and I want to see what people think. I want to see what their thought process is. Just sit there and wait, like, ooh, what do they think?
This is a little bit of a silly question. This is actually from my girlfriend. She wonders, have you ever scared yourself with your own story?
So the funny thing, you know that the mimic scene in the closet that, like, gets the person in the original documentary. When I was editing...
Oh no.
I forgot that I put the knock sound.
Oh, the fucking knock sound, dude. That got me really bad on my first watch through. I'm like on the internet constantly, so I knew it was like the fake knock sound, but it still shook the hell out of me. I had to pause and I like put my hands in my face and I'm like, are you fucking serious?
It got me too. I was working on it at 1 a.m. and it was just like letting the video play through and then just knock, knock, knock. And I'm like, oh. I had to stop for a moment. I'm like, okay, Darian, this is just it's a silly video. You don't need to raise your blood pressure for this.
I'm honestly very happy that it got you too, because that is karma. Now we're gonna move on to what I'm sure everyone's fucking waiting for. Oh. How did you make the practical effects?
So I've always had a love for making props and making cool crafts when I was growing up, and I wanted to, like, I knew that this was going to be the thing that sets my series out from other people. I'm like, I'm going to make the monsters, and they're going to be real. So I just took a bunch of household easy items, looked up some DIY tutorials on YouTube, and I went away.
You just did that with shit around the house?
Yeah, it's easy. Like, you probably make stuff like right now, depending on what's in your home.
Oh my god.
Cardboard, paper,
I might
whatever.
have some red paint left over from Halloween.
Heck yeah.
They look so good. And I knew right away when I saw the Mimic video, I knew that it was a practical effect. You can that's kind of the most important part. The thing that's so nice about practical effects is that people can tell they're practical effects right away.
Yeah, if you try to do 3D, like, for some reason, like, if you don't know how to do 3D, like me, I had to learn to do the series. Practical effects, it just makes things so much easier, because there's something you just work with and do on set and with video. Like, it's so much easier to work with and fun.
Yeah, and I've like, if you go through the like Mimic jump scare frame by frame, I can kind of tell. I'm assuming that you just kind of threw it at the camera.
Yeah, I just had it on my hand and I just went bop right into the camera.
Only if you go frame by frame, you can kind of tell. But at full speed, it's just terrifying at full speed.
Literally just someone sitting in the closet, had the camera pointed up, and I just smacked them. Smacked their hand with the camera.
Oh, and I wanted to bring attention to this, because I feel like a lot of people have probably missed this, because it's not in the compiled documentary. But in the standalone Mimic video, there's the part at the end where the lady's getting eaten.
Gets offed and owned.
Yeah, and I actually didn't know about that for a while because I watched the compiled version. So when I found it, I was like, "Oh, this is really cool." I just wanted to share that, and I'm probably gonna like put it on screen because I'm sure a lot of people have missed that
crunchy.
Part. Oh yeah, the sound
sound
design was really. Did you make those sounds?
Yup, I was sitting in the closet with pasta and oranges, just chewing on oranges.
Oh my god, I've always thought that that like Foley work and audio design like that is actually super interesting, because you really just don't need that much to make a sound for anything.
Nope.
You just need to be creative. That's really it.
Food is your best friend. Pasta for crunching bones. Oranges for all the juiciness and squishiness. Celery for other bits and tendons.
Alright, I want to know, as well, this was a follow-up to the question, what is your favorite practical effect that you've done?
Definitely the Mimic closet scene.
The Mimic closet scene, yeah, I figured. But
like, it worked so well. It's much better than I anticipated. It was perfect.
Oh, did you do multiple takes, by the way? This thought just came up in my head. Was that one take, or did you like have a few tries at that?
Surprisingly, one take.
Wow. I cannot believe that was one take. You got it down on the very first try.
A little bit of editing here and there to make the jump a little quicker, but other than that, all one thing.
This is another, because it's kind of a broad question. Which episode of Vita Carnis is your favorite, and why?
My favorite. I would say the finale.
The finale, yeah, no, that's
because there was so much planning put into it. I get to finally like work with a bunch of stuff, and it was.
You got Blender, you got voice acting.
Yeah, like I have so much more reach to work with so much other things now, and I'm not limited to PowerPoint presentations and such.
Yeah, that's certainly. I never minded the presentation of the series, but that is certainly something that a lot of people didn't like, so I'm glad that you can expand your scope now.
Yeah, when I first started, it was like, I didn't have a high budget, like the entirety of everything up to the finale was like $300, $500 bucks. Mm-hmm. That's it. Every single thing.
I wanna hear you talk about the trimming prop. I forgot to talk about that. The trimming prop, it's like a puppet. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, that's so cool. And I liked all of the creative ways that you were like masking the fact that it was a puppet. It worked so well too. I like the part where he got the little pats. That was my favorite.
Yeah, he's a good boy. He gets good pet.
My second favorite part was the part where you threw the ball at him and he didn't move at all. I cracked up the first time I watched that. That was so funny.
Like, I was thinking about him, like, how could I possibly do this? I'm the only person here to operate the puppet, but I also need to throw the ball. I know, he's gonna sit there and do nothing.
It was so funny.
It'll be funny, and it works.
What was the biggest challenge that you faced in creating the series?
The biggest challenge was the Mimic Defense tape video. That was the biggest one, because for some reason I just wanted to upload on Halloween. I'm like, it'd be perfect. It's spooky, scary on Halloween.
I didn't even
realize. Most people didn't realize, and I'm like, it was all for waste. Yeah. So I only had like a month to work on 2 episodes. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, how do I do this? I gotta get people to drive me out to a location. I gotta film at night and make sure that the police aren't called because there's a giant red mat in the middle of the forest.
Was that car just there? Like the car was just there in the...
Yep. It was just in the middle of the woods, and I'm like, I'll use it as a key scene for the Mimic pop-up part, because I can hide behind it with the low quality suit.
Very
pop
large
up.
Suit. Yeah, I don't have any strong thoughts about the Mimic suit. A lot of people do. I think it's like... I respect the ambition. That's why I can't really dislike it, because I totally respect the ambition. I think it was just a little too ambitious. It was a little...
It was like if I didn't put that deadline and I spent a little bit more time on the costume, I think it would have been a lot greater. But it was like the costume broke on the first take.
Oh no.
So I'm like, oh, we got like tomorrow it's gonna start raining and I can't film at that location, so I gotta work on it tonight. So I worked on it, and then the very next day before it rained, we went out and took like 5 more takes. It was super late at night. It was just not well planned. So that's why I hate that part so much.
I totally get. That makes a lot of sense. I didn't know that you rushed it, and that's kind of sad that you did all that for Halloween. Like, I didn't even know. Like, that's I didn't know that it was rushed. That makes total sense. I think these are thoughts I've been having in my head the whole time. It's obviously the main issue is that the build-up of the episode is not really worth it because the costume looks kind of goofy.
It takes so long, yeah. Because, like, editing as well was only 2 days, because Halloween was 2 days away. And I'm like, oh, I gotta get it done. Oh, this is good. Post. Great. But then I've definitely felt the aftermath of it.
Yeah, like, and then a lot of people probably just did not like it at all. But
thankfully... Oh, continue?
Alright, I think, the beginning of Mimic Defense instructional tape is actually some of my favorite of, like, any of the series. I liked that, like, first tape, the clarification on the, well, quote-unquote, clarification on the way that the mimics work, was really cool. It was really funny to see the contradicting information, and I was like, hey, what? It's like, what are you talking about?
What? This is completely against the previous thing.
And we know now that the documentary was put together by college students that had no idea what they were doing in the grand scheme, and they were just kind of doing it for fun. So I trust the information in that video more than pretty much anywhere else. I don't know if I'm wrong to think that, but
we'll never know, will we? Oh.
I also had assumed, I assumed that the documentary was done a while ago for 2 main reasons. This is something that I actually thought about today, because I've been writing the script for my video since the frickin' finale dropped. I even prepared some of it before it was done. But the narrator describes the monoliths in the documentary as being very new, and then says they're from 1972, right? That's yes. Very specific wording. And the chart at the very beginning of the documentary seems to be in the early 70s when it stops giving information, and it only goes until 1980 anyways. So I'm like, this is probably one of the earliest things that we get to actually see, aside from the World War II stuff. Am I right? Is that correct?
Unfortunately, no.
Damn it.
in the video message, if you look at the top, there's the part labeled documentary, and that was in 1987.
Oh, I didn't know there was a date. Fuck, I just missed it.
Well, yeah, that was just bad planning in the beginning for me. I'm like, oh, what's a good chart I can make? Oh, it goes up to 1980 because why not?
So it's just me looking too deep into the first episode of a series that was not 100% fully planned. So that's just my bad. All right, so this is another question. I'm assuming that the male actor that we saw in the cooking show was just you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in Mimic Defense as well?
Yep. Only 2 actors were ever used because I don't have access to a lot of people, just some peers and family members.
So who was the girl? Is that your sister?
Yep.
Okay, I figured. I just didn't know. I just wanted to know. That was just a little fun question. Did she also do the screaming in Anomaly Report?
No.
Where did that come from?
I was just looking up sound effects that were like common,
you just found
like
it.
Yeah, commercials. Like I can just use in videos without any issues. And I'm like, oh, there it is, and then I mashed it and turned up the volume and made it sound terrible.
Oh yeah, that video is. I actually think that is probably the most like raw, like horrifying video. It's rough. That video is rough. And I think the direction in the video is really, really good. I think it's one of your strongest episodes in terms of direction. And like I like the more abstract kind of take on the horror in that video.
It's funny because the reason why it was like super, super visceral is because this is the video I worked on right after the defense tape.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, you guys want scary, huh?
I figured that was exactly why. I figured that was exactly why you did that. How did you do the visuals in that video? Like, I can't even wrap my head around that.
So, a thing I have for the entire series is I want to at least do practical for every single creature at least once.
Okay.
So, almost all the stuff in there was practical. Like, all the moving things were practical. The tendrils were just like some yarn being pulled across sand.
I figured, yeah.
But the faces was like a aquarium skull that I put a bunch of clay on and just put a blow dryer on for like 20 minutes to melt.
Dude, that's like so ridiculously creative. I would never come up with something like that.
just sat there with a hairdryer, with a skull sitting on top of the oven to help quicken the melting. Yeah.
If you could go back in time with your current knowledge and create Vita Carnis again from scratch, what would you do differently?
Much more planning.
Yeah, I figured that was going to be the answer.
Because, like, everything can be baked down to how much research and how much detail you put into it and how carefully you put your detail into your work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm assuming you would have taken your time on Mimic Defense.
Definitely. I might redo that video, but I'm not sure.
I think that would be awesome, personally. Something I forgot to say a bit ago when I was talking about it is I think a lot of people's gripes can ultimately be kind of broken down into... I think the decision to show the costume for such a long time was what really put people off. Because if people don't have the chance to see how goofy a costume might look, then it doesn't matter, you know? As if you can frame it correctly, if you can show it for just the right amount of time, I think that is how you could successfully use a homemade full mimic suit, basically.
Yes, that is exactly what I was thinking, and probably should have done. Yeah. And thankfully, though, I will do much better in the future.
Of course. And I will say, the shot of the mimic reaching through the window part of the door that's used in the thumbnail, that actually looks really good. That's what you need to do more of.
Yeah, that part looked really good, because it was perfectly framed. You didn't get to see all of it. You only saw the important parts. Head, and it was torso, arm. Yeah, brief. Only for a few seconds.
So I think if you're gonna remake it, that's the kind of like idea that I personally think that you should be going in with. And
unfortunately, the costume is now like destroyed because the materials like harden over time. So now it's just a mannequin.
That's maybe it's a fitting end to the costume. Maybe you should just make a new one at that point.
Yep, at that point, new costume.
Will the story ever drift away from analog horror and utilize other mediums, such as the kind of newly popular digital horror, or are we going to primarily stay in the 80s and 90s for the story?
So the story will be going forward and moving along with time.
Okay.
It will be exploring other mediums and other types of technology, but I can't talk about that too much.
No, that's fine. I actually forgot to clarify at the beginning. If any of the questions would give out too much information, tell me, because I don't want spoilers.
Don't worry, I won't share a single thing.
Now, sometimes when I'm losing my mind on stream after a season finale, that might make me a little upset. But that's okay. That's okay. It's better.
Especially when the creator is just posting funny faces in the comments.
I hate you. Is the storybook a real, tangible book in universe? Like, was it written by somebody, or is it a metaphorical storytelling device just for the audience to kind of understand what's going on in the background?
It hasn't been fully explored yet, but it does have some tangibility.
Okay. That's kind of what I figured, because it feels very metaphorical. Honestly,
just a little bit.
I still don't really know 100% what's going on there. It's difficult. At the beginning of the documentary, we are told that the Vita Carnis origin is solely to Earth, and that demons and extraterrestrials are not involved. Can we take this fact at face value, or is there more to it?
No comment.
God damn it! This is one that I know you will be able to answer. A lot of people were, understandably, dissatisfied with the mechanics of the mimics, the durability of the mimics. People, like, as soon as it was said that guns are ineffective, a lot of people kind of lost their mind. But later, we kind of got a little bit of a change in the instructional tape that you could use guns on critical points. I wanted to know, is this a retcon, a purposeful in-universe discrepancy, or both?
It is not a retcon. It is specifically meant to confuse you.
Okay. It seems like the idea is that a gun can work, but a lot of what people don't seem to understand is that they will probably overwhelm you before you can use it on them properly. Is that correct in my understanding?
Yeah, because like most people are like, oh, a gun would work perfect, but when you're asleep, don't really, like, mimics take you by surprise. It's not really if you saw a mimic and you know it's coming, you could definitely use a gun and it would probably work.
But the thing that people don't seem to understand is that the mimics are intelligent stealth hunters that specifically try not to put themselves in that situation.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm glad that we got to clarify that. Hopefully the haters will be quiet now.
And another thing people don't realize is that this is in the 1980s and 1990s. Not many people have access to an automatic assault rifle. And it's also Canada, not the USA.
The story is taking place in Canada, not in the US. It might be a little bit different.
There's not as many guns here, so people are kind of screwed.
In the US, everyone would be fine. Oh, that.
Or would there be more guns because of this threat? Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe not if the government is acting the way they are.
Yeah, I wonder what they're doing.
I wonder what they're doing for real.
Why wouldn't they just hunt down all the creatures and just get rid of them all? I wonder why.
I find it very hard to believe that the government wouldn't be doing something about these guys. Their story sucks. That's what a lot of people. It's just the people not paying attention, man.
There's a reason.
That's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
And something that I noted relevant to the season finale, I found it really funny that the Harvester was kind of just taken out with a gunshot, just like one, yoop, gone.
Yup, just pop.
Kind of reframes that little authorities refuse to handle Harvester, huh?
Yeah,
interesting.
It's almost as if you shoot it in the venom sac, that its venom also works on itself.
And there's no cure, so.
Like, another funny thing that I don't hear people talking about, they're like, what if you wear, like, boots and such? I'm like, well, you can just drive a car into it if you really want to. Make a big splash, but yeah, that would work too.
I mean, how much would boots really work, though? Because those claws are huge.
They would work initially, but they forget about the thrashing part. So you'd be pulled to the ground, and then now your back or front is now face first in spikes.
Yeah, I was about to say, unless you can somehow take the boots off and step backwards out of the boots without triggering it again at some point within like the 500 feet that you have to walk away, it's just not very wise. How about you just don't go near it? Let's just
don't touch grass.
Yeah, that's the takeaway from this. Don't touch grass. Don't even go. Don't even go to the forest, and then it'll be fine. Yeah. Actually, I kind of want to ask. Sometimes I'm just getting questions out of the blue. Do the harvesters just move? Do they just have the ability? Because the population density shifted. Can they just move, or are they like dying? And there's just more of them being centered around that area. Because it seems like the reason why they moved was just to make like a giant minefield around Facility Zero. That's what it seemed like happened.
Yeah. So that was an error on my end. I didn't specify in the original documentary. Yes, they can move, but very slowly.
Oh, that explains why it took a long time. There we go. That's some fun clarification.
Because they can't just, like, get up and just walk along.
Not like
slowly
the hosts, who can kind of just get up and go.
Yeah, hosts, they can skedaddle.
I wish they were... I wish the hosts were more involved. I know that they're actually very involved indirectly, but they're so cool.
Yeah, we haven't got to see one yet.
Another question. How have you felt about community theories in response to Vita Carnis in general? And is there anything in the story or lore of the series that you thought was obvious that has flown over everyone's head to this day?
Not too much. I really like how everyone's theorizing and making up all these fun theories. And, like, I encourage that entirely. Think for yourself. Think, like, oh, this could be happening. But... there's a lot of information there. Just gotta look for it. Because, like, most of the theories that are mostly incorrect are, like, missing some of the key details that have already been mentioned.
Missing information, yeah.
Yeah, like, it's right there, you just gotta look for it. They're like, oh, how does the host eat without a mouth? It talks about it in the video.
It's got kind of a mouth, it's just not where you would generally put it.
Yep, it's right there, I circled it.
So my video came out 2 days before Message. And when I watched Message for the first time, I lost my shit. I completely fucking... I was screaming. I was like, I was fucking right! Holy shit! It was such a euphoric feeling to have gotten so much correct before it was... I mean, it was kind of annoying, too, because I could have waited 2 days, and I could have just, like...
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. I could have just known all that stuff. But I guess the kind of karma for that was the finale, making a lot of what I thought I was right about just gone, because that's why there's 2 more seasons, right? 3 seasons?
Yep.
That's
3
crazy.
seasons.
That's crazy to think about how we're 30% done? Like, what? Like, season 2 is going to be able to start super, super strong. Maybe not like season 1 was able to, because you didn't have the resources, you didn't know even that you were going to have to raise your standard to please so many people, you know?
Yes, I'm very excited to finally start working with much more quality and a much larger budget. I could finally start doing very big things.
This was a question that I kind of just came up with on the bat right now as well. Are we done with Vincent's story? Did he kind of pass the torch to Carcass and we're kind of done with that, or is there more to explore with him?
No comment.
God damn it. Okay, fine. That's fine. Okay. I also made a community post. I want to read some of the ones that I thought were interesting to you. So I'm not sure if this one would apply. It might just be a super straightforward answer, but Astro asks, which came first? The idea for the Vita Carnis series or the drawings in your sketchbook? And I'm assuming it was the idea based on the information that I already know.
Yep, the idea first, and then I just kind of explored it with sketches and drawings.
Were those sketches the first time that you drew the characters?
Nope.
No, okay. So you might have sketched them first, like, digitally, I'm assuming?
Paper, actually, before I even started digitally.
Oh, so this is... So these monsters have existed, then, for a long time.
Yep. In fact, if you go to my Instagram and scroll all the way down, you can see a picture of an Elder Mimic for the first time.
Oh, that's super cool. That kind of... New question in my head again. Are we ever gonna get to see an Elder Mimic?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. That's good. That's good to know. Dude, that's gonna be... Oh my god, that's gonna be terrifying. Another one. This is I have some silly ones in here. Here asks, I am genuinely curious to know what each of the meat boys taste like. I guess the meat snake tastes like formaldehyde or something, but I wonder what a stir-fried harvester would taste like.
This is a question I've been asked a lot and have thought about a lot.
Oh my god, really?
Yes. So the crawl... Let's start from the beginning. The crawl would taste a lot like liver.
Okay.
Trimmings would taste like rabbit or raccoon.
That makes sense. Logical.
Meat snakes would taste fucking awful.
Yep, also logical.
The equivalent of rotten flesh and vinegar and acid, pretty much.
All together.
All combined together with a lovely after-smelling taste.
Except for if it's the really big one. Then it just
No,
smells
it just
good.
smells good.
Oh, it just
That's
smells
it.
good. Just
It's still made of meat.
you think
That's
it would
gross.
you think it would taste worse?
So, I think it would taste like normal meat snake, but the implication that most of the meat in there is human would probably sway you away from eating it.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't even try. Then again, you probably wouldn't try for a normal meat snake either.
Which is also a thing for mimics. Mimics would taste very gamey, but knowing that they eat only humans when they're adults is not a good thing to think about.
Yeah, probably don't taste very good at all.
Harvesters would taste very tacky. They would have a very, like, chewy but non-tasteful taste.
They look chewy. I want to bite into it. Maybe not actually, I would die.
It would bite into you?
It would bite into me, and if it didn't, then the venom that I bit into would probably kill me near instantly. So, maybe don't do that.
It looks good, but it would most likely taste rather plain and rubbery like squid or octopus that hasn't been cooked. Hosts would taste very, it would be very dark meat, because it's mostly made of tissues and other types of, strands and muscle fibers. And then monoliths would taste like Grawl, because they're mostly made of just the basic meat.
The same, yeah.
Singularity would taste like rock, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say it kind of looks like obsidian. It looks like a volcanic glass almost.
Like if you licked a window, there you go. That's what it would taste like.
Oh, someone in my server actually asked, "Will there be more lifelike props? And if so, will it be scarier than the mimic prop?"
Very much indeed. Now that I have access to literally, I think 10 times the amount of budget, I'm ordering right now much more materials and props. There's going to be a lot more practical stuff in the future. That
is awesome to hear. That's like your main thing that really differentiates you. I think the unique premise and the use of practical effects are that's the thing that brings everyone in.
There'll be much more in the future, I can promise that.
Oh, this is another question. Hello, World Mastered says, "Can you create a final episode dedicated to the prince?" Bro, we're not done.
Nope, not yet.
Maybe we'll have one dedicated to the prince later. I don't know.
Who knows?
Not my business.
Yeah. Who knows? Except me.
Shadow Dragon 1396 asks, "First, how are you today? Second, is the lack of skin on all the Carnis an artistic choice, narrative choice, or just because?"
To answer your first bit, I'm doing well, thank you. A little tired, but I'm taking a nice, well-deserved break. And second, it's mostly kind of a narrative choice. I wanted to create something that, the whole point of the Vita Carnis when first starting out, with the documentary, was there's these horrible, gross-looking creatures.
Very strange creatures that just kind of showed up overnight.
Yep, and they're just kind of treated like every other animal. Just if a bear attack happened, or if you saw elk in the fields.
I think I've definitely seen someone compare like realistically a mimic attack is kind of like a bear attack. It's avoidable, but if you come across one, you're probably fucked.
Yeah, that's exactly what I drew for inspiration for mimic attacks. Bear.
Except, bears probably don't tend to break in your home and stalk you in your sleep.
Yeah, bears don't, only feed on humans.
Yeah, that one too. Oh yeah, speaking of mimics, when Defense Instructional Tape clarified that they were able to contort their bodies to fit into small spaces despite being 7 feet tall, I did not like that. Why did you do that?
So they can hunt better. Now they sit inside your beanbag chairs.
Yeah, but then my brain is actually he can fit under your bed, dumbass. And I'm like,
that's one of their favorite ways to hunt people.
Well,
they really like chairs and wardrobes and all that.
Oh, there's no way he can fit into my... Oh, maybe he can.
There is some limit to it, though.
Well, yeah, obviously, it's still, even though they can, contort themselves, it's still a pretty big, slightly above human-sized creature.
As long as its bones can fit into it properly, I would say it's pretty good chance that it could fit inside something.
Okay, this is kind of like the previous question. Darko Konoe asks, "Why did you choose the concept of meat for most of the stuff?" And specifically,
Because meat funny.
Because meat funny. Okay, there's the answer. There you go. I hope you're satisfied with that one. 2 more.
Oh boy.
MX Simp asks, "Do you go to therapy?"
I do not, because it is hard to afford, but I believe everyone should go to therapy because it's healthy.
That's a great answer. The last one of the user submitted from Rigby is, "Bro, what were you on?"
That's the scary thing. I'm completely sober.
No! The mind of a completely sane person is not to be underestimated. What are you most excited for the audience to see next?
Definitely the next batch of practical props that are coming up.
Okay, that's very exciting. If you could give any advice for people wanting to start their own internet horror series or ARG or whatever, what would it be?
Do your planning. Do not underestimate your planning.
Seems to be a theme here.
Like, it is the key thing, I would say, to creating any project. Plan, make sure it works, use spell check, because I didn't, and I'm terrible at typing.
You should just get someone to, like, look over... Like, just get, like, your sister to look over it or something.
Nah.
Okay.
I use word check now, it's fine.
Alright.
I've learned, I've improved.
Alright. Is there a even approximate release date for the first episode of Season 2, or are we kind of taking it slowly? Are we just taking a break for now?
There'll be a few videos that aren't Vita Carnis related that probably come out, but...
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like more drawing tutorials. There'll be 100K video that should be coming out at some point. I'm taking currently I'm taking a week from doing anything because why not?
No, that's good.
And then after that, I'll be slowly writing like specific scripts and ordering products to make future things, but nothing super specific.
Well-earned break. You deserve your break. Well, it was very nice to have this interview with you. That's unfortunately all of the questions that my tiny little ape brain could think of.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.